neighbors, supporters, and families of Arizona. We're here not just to talk about politics, but to talk about our future. A future that Washington says it owns, but one that we, the people of Arizona, have the power to claim for ourselves. Now, you've all seen the headlines. U.S. warships in the Caribbean, on alert, 4,000. Venezuela, once again, the crosshairs. And if you feel a sense of deja vu, it's because, yes, we've been here before. Think about it. Guatemala, 1954. Chile, 1973. Iraq, 2003. Venezuela, 2025. Every time Washington says, we're defending democracy. But every time, the people on the ground end up with dictatorship, war, displacement, and despair. And every time, families, mothers, fathers, children pay the price. And furthermore, all this meddling in Latin America only fuels the migration crises that we've come to face, time period after time period. You know, and leading the charge this time, though, as he has in the Senate before, Marco Rubio, the senator, now Secretary of Exile Politics. Rubio, a proud acolyte of John McCain and his endless interventionist playbook. Little Marco talks tough. He waves the flag. But what he really waves is the banner of sanctions, blockades, and threats, as well as the flag of Israel. Before he'll wave any other flag, little Marco will wave the flag of the Zionist state. Let's be real. Sanctions don't starve dictators, if Maduro is even in fact a dictator. You know, you want to know why my former boss, Jesse Ventura, met with Fidel Castro? Because he wanted to meet the man. He didn't want to stick with the impression that the federal government was giving him of Castro. He wanted to meet him himself and empower Minnesota's economy by bringing in Cuban goods. You know, but really what these sanctions do, what these hegemonist embargoes do, they starve children. And really, these blockades don't break corrupt elites. They break families. Threats don't build democracy. They build resentment. And Rubio calls this leadership. I call it betrayal. Betrayal of sovereignty, betrayal of dignity, betrayal of humanity. But let's pause here, because I want to remind you, all of you, that Washington does not have the final word. A governor can defy Washington. It kind of depends on the extent that the defiance goes, but little enough, guess what? A governor of a state can exercise autonomy. A state can chart its own course. And I referred to Jesse Ventura earlier. You know, when Washington said Cuba was untouchable, when they called Havana officially an enemy, Ventura still got on a plane. He shook hands, he opened trade, he built partnerships, and he proved something powerful, that a governor acting in the name of the people can build bridges where Washington builds walls and drops bombs. Now imagine Arizona doing the same. Arizona, not waiting for D.C. Arizona, leading the way with Venezuela, with Gaza, and with the West Bank. Trade, education, energy. Arizona crops feeding Venezuelan families. Venezuelan goods strengthening Arizona communities. Students from Caracas walking the halls of Tucson schools. Students from Phoenix studying in Venezuela. Artists, researchers, builders, dreamers. Not crossing borders under the threat of violence, but crossing borders in pursuit of peace and progress. That's not a dream. That's a choice. And it's a choice we can make. But let's talk about why this matters for us here at home. Because when Washington destabilizes, people flee. When bombs fall and sanctions crush economies, families have no choice but to move. And where do they come? Well, they come here, to our border, to our desert, to Arizona. Now, some people will tell you that migration is a threat. They point fingers, they say families seeking safety are the enemy. But I ask you, who created the conditions that forced those families to flee in the first place? It wasn't the families. It wasn't the children clinging to their parents at the border. It was Washington. This is Washington's blowback. It was intervention. It was war and sanctions and greed. And now, Arizona is expected to carry the burden, while Washington walks away with clean hands, supposedly clean hands. And that brings me to Arizona Fire. Families, immigrants' rights, and empowerment. That's why I've proposed it. And let me tell you exactly what fire means. That families deserve dignity, not detention. It means saying immigrants deserve rights, not violent raids. It means saying empowerment, not exploitation. With fire, we don't just respond to migration. We address the root cause. We stand against endless wars that create refugees in the first place. We stand against sanctions that collapse economies and push families north. And we stand for partnerships that stabilize, that strengthen, that empower. Fire, families, immigrants' rights, and empowerment is Arizona saying, we will not be the border guard of Washington's failed empire. We will build a bridge to a new future. I've spoken with mothers who crossed this desert with children on their backs, fleeing violence that our foreign policy helped fuel. I've spoken with Venezuelan students here in Arizona who watched their families back home struggle under sanctions they had no hand in creating. And I've spoken with Arizonans, farmers, teachers, workers, who are tired of Washington using our state as a testing ground for failed policies in Latin America. And every single one of them wants the same thing: dignity, security, a chance to build a life. Now, let me pose the question to you: is that really asking the world? The U.S. government's campaign against Venezuela isn't about democracy. It's about control. It's about U.S. hegemony. It's about keeping neighbors weak so Washington feels strong. But I believe in something different. I believe that Arizona can show that sovereignty, dignity, and cooperation are not just words. They are policies we can live by. We can say no to Washington's failed doctrine. We can say yes to families, yes to empowerment, yes to building bridges instead of burning them. That is our choice. That is our path. And if we walk it together, Arizona will not just be a state of the Union. Arizona will be a beacon for justice, for dignity, for a future that belongs to all the people, not just to Washington. Thank you. Let's get to work.